Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Niharika MP. I'm a research scholar from the Department of Physics, VIT University, India. And my research supervisor is Dr. Manmad Rao Banki, Associate Professor, Department of Physics, VIT. So, my presentation is on the research topic anodized copper oxide nanoflakes for antibacterial and antifungal applications. My ID is 2037. These are my contents. First, I will be explaining about my material, then methodology, its characterization, and afterwards applications and analysis, and conclusion and references. So, mainly, the increase in the need of cost effective, abundant, and scalable materials has made the metal oxide place in the modern material science. And these materials has the potential to revolutionize industries ranging from energy sectors to healthcare sectors. So, among all the metal oxides, copper oxide is one of the highly sensitive and reliable material. It is more environmental friendly and less expensive and abundant. It is also stable in air and electrolyte and an excellent electrocatalytic material. So this copper oxide is a p-type semiconductor which is having a tunable band gap in the range of 1.2 electron volt to 1.6 electron volt. Its unique electrical, thermal, and catalytical properties with its ease of fabrication has made it one of the strong candidate in the applications such as or in the field of renewable energy, environmental sustainability, and modern um, advanced medical technologies. So this is a versatile material. Its versatility has made it to work as a one of the key component in sensors, solar cells, capacitors, fuel cells, supercapacitors, photocatalysts, and many more. So overview of copper oxide nanostructures are there are three classification of copper oxide nanostructures: 0D, 1D, 2D. So 0D are quantum dots which are very hard to fabricate, and 1D nanostructures such as nanotubes and nanowires will be having surface related limitations such as it has less surface area compared to 2D nanoflakes. But compared to other nanostructures, 2D nanostructures are having more surface area, superior charge transfer, improved mechanical stability, controlled growth and thickness. We have a control over its growth and thickness, and it has enhanced sensitivity and reactivity. So, the copper oxide can be fabricated using many methodologies. For example, hydrothermal, sol gel, chemical vapor deposition, precipitation method, thermal oxidation, microwave assisted, sonochemical, and electrochemical anodization. But in this research, we have gone for electrochemical anodization because not many researchers have explored the anodization of copper. They have explored the anodization of titanium and aluminum, but not the anodization of copper and getting copper oxide phase. And also, this electrochemical anodization has different on many applications and properties such as user friendly, cost effective, non toxic, and also it produces uniform and well aligned nanostructures while anodizing and allow precise control over morphology and surface area. And it enhances the addition of copper oxide structures. It doesn't contain any other type of impurity in the material since the anodization will be only sorry here the material will be only copper and oxide. There is no chance of presence of other um, compositions which can act as a defect states or which can act as a impurity. So that can be reduced in electrochemical anodization. These materials are ideal for biosensors, catalysis, and antibacterial applications. So Let's see how we have prepared this copper oxide nanostructures using electrochemical anodization. Firstly, we have taken platinum as cathode and copper as anode, and we have dipped it in 1 molar KOH electrolyte solution. And after anodizing for 0.5, 1, 2, and 3 hours, which is represented as 0.5 C, 1 C, 2 C, and 3 C, in the figure B, anodized copper oxide samples, we have done the post annealing. We have done the annealing after anodization to increase the crystallinity for 1 hour at 250 degrees Celsius, and the resulting samples are shown in figure D. It is 0.5 C, 1 C, 2 C, 3 C. So coming to the results and discussions, here to know the phase of the copper oxide and also to confirm the crystal structure, we have studied the X-ray diffraction spectra of all the 4 anodized samples. Here we can see the crystallographic orientation corresponding to the copper oxide is along the direction -111 and 111, and the other peaks are corresponding to the copper substrate. Here the intensity of the copper substrate is more and than compared to copper oxide. This is suggesting that the formed film is of very less thickness. And also we have calculated the average crystallite size of the copper oxide for comparison using Debye-Schiller formula, and that was found to be less for 1 hour anodized sample, that is 1C, 7.74 nanometer. To confirm the morphology, we have taken the FESM images for all the 4 anodized samples, and it was found that for 0.5 hour anodized sample, the morphology was nanowires, and 1 hour anodized sample, it was nanoflakes. And this nanoflake morphology was continued for 2 hour and 3 hour anodized samples. So here we can see there is a transition from 0.5 hour anodized nanostructures to 1 hour like nanoflake morphology. Here there is a transition from nanowires, 1D nanostructure to 2D nanostructure, that is nanoflakes, and this is mainly because of the surface dissolution that is occurring during anodization. And also it was noticed that the thickness of the nanoflakes increased with increase in anodization time. It was increased from 25 nanometer to 100 nanometer nearly, from 1 hour anodized samples to 3 hour anodized samples. And also it can be noticed that the nanoflake morphology is well aligned and oriented for 1 hour anodized copper oxide nanosample compared to the 2 hour and 3 hour. Here the distortion in the structure or alignment and orientation takes place for 2 hour anodized sample, and for the 3 hour anodized sample the thickness and the length is uniform, but it is not more aligned compared to 1 hour anodized sample. So how the pore formation is forming on the copper oxide can be known or explained from the field assisted dissolution model. Here this is just a representation of how the pores form on the copper oxide. So what happens is, distorted here, the oxygen ions in the dissociation of water from the electrolyte is the main cause of oxidation of metals. When there is an equilibrium between the rate of oxidation or rate of oxide dissolution, then only the oxide film will start to grow on the metal surface. So once this happens, once the initially formed oxide layer forms on the copper metal, there will be some defects and dysfunctionalities on the surface. So due to the chemical dissolution, pits will form on the surface of the oxide layer. Or at the pore bottom, the metals forming more porous structure or any random structure. This is just a representation that it is forming a curved or porous. And also, due to the reduced thickness, increase in the dissolution rate, pore will interior into the metal, where where the other side than the pore bottom. So again, the equilibrium will be reached. The film start to grow. Here, the reaction relating to how the copper oxide is formed is shown in figure 1, equation 1, 2, 3. First is oxidation, formation of copper oxide, dehydration of the copper oxide film. Next, to find the energy band gap, we have plotted the top plots for all the 4 anodized samples using UV visible spectra, and it was found that there was not much change in the band gap was seen from 0.5 R anodized sample to 3 R anodized sample, and it is in the range of 1.42 electron volt. Here, we have done the surface chemical analysis to know the presence of copper oxide again and to check the presence of Cu2 plus ions in the copper oxide. In the figure A, we have seen all the appearance of all the possible elements, that is copper, oxygen, and carbon. And in the second image, tells the presence of Cu2 plus ions, that is along the peaks along 933.9 and 958.6. These are the peaks corresponding to Cu2p32 and Cu, which tells the presence of Cu2 plus ions, and also it distinguishes the copper oxide CuO phase with other copper oxide phase like Cu2O, CuOH twice. And 529.8 electron volt and 531.2 electron volt are assigned to oxygen lattice, which again tells the presence of oxygen in the copper oxide structure. And this peak 284.9 electron volt is corresponding to C2C bond that is present on the copper. We all know that we are exposed to n number of tremendous antibacterial agents to avoid the diseases that is caused by these bacteria. If we use the same type of antibodies or antibacterial agents for a longer time, the bacteria will gain resistance over these antibodies. So again, it will increase the risk of infections and UTI and many other dreadful diseases. So urgent need of new bactericides and fungicides are required. So from the literature survey, what we got to know is many research has been done on nanoparticles and structures where the film-based nanostructures or film-based antibacterial agents so the video was cut, hence I will be continuing from the slide that I left, that is slide this one. So we will be continuing from the fact that the overuse of antibodies lead to resistant in bacteria, which increases the risk of all the other diseases, and hence urgent and new need of new type of bactericides and fungicides are required. And these type of film-based copper oxide nanostructures, which are used in this particular research, can be used in medicine, agriculture, water treatment, food textiles, and air purification. So here we have used agar diffusion method to calculate or to know the antibacterial activity of copper oxide. These figures shows the sample preparation for copper oxide, antibacterial activity of copper oxide. First, we will be preparing the agar solution and then we will pour it into the petri dish. and kept under the UV light for drying and for around 30 minutes. And then we will introduce the bacteria or fungi and we will scab it around the petri dish. Then we will introduce the samples, film-based samples, which are cut into zero point 0.5 centimeter square. Like as we will arrange the copper oxide samples as shown in the figure. Then we will wrap the petri dish as shown in the figure, and then we will keep it in the hot air oven for incubation around 24 hours for at 36 degrees Celsius. So, coming to the antibacterial mechanism, what happens inside the agar medium is, so in the agar medium, due to the presence of moisture and light, all type of bacteria and fungi will produce certain type of H2O2. So the presence of H2O2 inside or on the copper oxide, what will happen is, firstly, the decomposition of H2O2 will takes place by catalyzing or oxidizing copper oxide. That is, copper oxide state from Cu to Cu2 plus state in the presence of H2O2 by producing OH radicals. Then again, to reduce the Cu2 plus state to Cu state, reducing agent from the respiratory system of the bacteria itself is used. That is nicotinamide dinucleotide phosphate by releasing an oxygen. So these reactive oxygen species or OH radicals, and also sometimes copper ions that are released from the copper oxide, causes lipid peroxidation damage. Here we can see from the flowchart, the lipid peroxidation damage means it damages the DNA, damages mitochondria and protein, finally killing the bacteria. This is how the inhibition of bacteria takes place by the metal oxides. We measure the antibacterial activity by calculating the diameter of zone of inhibition formed around the samples. Here we have used the bare copper samples for reference, and also the streptomycin for the main reference. Here we have introduced 20 microliter of bacteria and also 20 microliter of streptomycin for all the petri dishes while introducing the bacteria. Among all the bacteria, or among all the samples, 1 are anodized samples, that is 1C sample. For 0.5 C means 0.5 are anodized, 2C means 2 are anodized, 3C means 3 are anodized samples. Among all the samples, 1 are anodized sample showed the more antibacterial activity. It is mainly because it is having more surface area, it is well aligned and oriented, hence more proximity between the copper oxide and the bacteria is there for one anodized sample, hence it can produce more reactive oxygen species. So more reactive oxygen species and copper ions means more bacteria will be killed or inhibition will be more for that particular sample. But except for E. coli, it showed the least antibacterial activity because E. coli is a mobile bacteria. It requires uneven structure to reduce its mobility. So that can be seen in 2 anodized samples where its structure or morphology is a little bit disoriented. So this particular morphology helps the bacteria to inhibit its movement and also killing it. And for the fungi, also 1 anodized sample was shown more antibacterial activity. Overall, 1 anodized sample was suitable for antibacterial activity. So these are my references. So the conclusion is the 1 anodized sample copper oxide nanoflakes is ideal for antibacterial activity where it is more aligned or oriented. Even though the nanowires, compared to the nanowires, nanoflakes are showing more antibacterial activity because 2D nanostructures are having more surface area compared to 1D nanostructures. And also here nanowires are not aligned and oriented compared to nanoflakes where it is aligned and oriented. Hence, there is a high chance of proximity between the nanoflakes compared to nanowires. Hence, nanoflakes showed more antibacterial activity compared to nanowires. Hence, the main thing is the nanostructure morphology, its alignment and orientation play a crucial role in the properties of copper oxide nanostructures. Here we have done how the morphology of the copper oxide nanostructures or the copper oxide film affect the antibacterial activity on the bacterias. So, where do we stand globally here is this work is competitive in performance and superior in affordability and scalability. We can still improve by modifying the copper oxide. And in the industry, the material is one of the most cost effective and multifunctional copper oxide coatings. It outperforms many expensive alternatives and it has a potential for commercial industrial applications. Thank you.